This is actually really exciting because I notice there's a lot of energy in this room because all the other sessions I've been to, the room has been dead silent leading up to the actual presentation. It's weird, but everybody was talking. This is great. You're not falling asleep after lunch. You're actually paying attention. That's really good. So, yeah, I'm going to talk to you today about UDoIT, and if you don't know what that stands for yet, that's fine. I will tell you in a few minutes. I ran, last year, I presented at InstructureCon on this same tool. Obviously, it was a year younger at that point, and like half broken. But that's the link to the presentation if you are interested in going to look at that after. We actually looked at it during the 30 minutes we were waiting to start this presentation. But you don't really need to see that before this talk, because I'm going to give you the short version. So just Spaceballs reference, if you've never seen that. Okay, so the Tech Rangers team, which is the team of part-timers that I lead, we and the rest of the Center for Distributed Learning at UCF partners with our Student Accessibility Services Department to provide what we call immediate need accommodations. And what that is when a student has requested an accommodation in a course, and it gets to us, we scan the course, we look at it, and we say, oh, there's some problems, and we have to fix them before it affects the student. And, but as we were spending all this time fixing these courses, we started thinking, well, what if we could give the instructors the tools they needed to be more proactive about the accessibility of their course content? And like I mentioned before, we did have an internal tool that we used to scan courses and give us a report, basically. It was similar to the WebAIM Wave tool. Of course, Wave is only usable for public content. And, but one of the problems was that the interface was kind of difficult to use, and the output was really only useful to web developers. It was very technical, and we had to clean it up a lot before even sending it to the instructor. So we heard about the Canvas grant program in 2013, and we decided to apply for it in order to fund the improvement of this internal tool. And so we won, and we started working on the Universal Design Online Content Inspection Tool, the UDoIT. The C is silent, that's why. But like I mentioned in the previous presentation, it's basically a backronym, which is a real word. But basically, we wanted it to be called UDoIT because it gives you the power to take control of the accessibility of your course, and then we figured out how to fit that into real words. So the goals for UDoIT were to make a self-service tool that was easy to use and provided actionable results to the instructor or just the user. In addition, we wanted it to educate the instructors so that they could avoid issues in the future, and maybe eventually they wouldn't even have to run UDoIT. Maybe they just run it once a year just to make sure everything's good. So that's perfect world, obviously. So I know you want to see a demo, so we're just going to jump right to that. So let me go over to the thing here. So this is what we call web courses at UCF. It's just our branded version of Canvas. UDoIT shows up as an item in your course navigation that the students can't see. We always get that, oh God, the students are going to see it. No, the students can't see it. It's only for actually tied to our feedback system, but that's fine for now. We also have a description of what UDoIT is, because this is a tool that we've launched publicly to all faculty at UCF, and they might click on this wondering, what is this UDoIT thing? So we have a description of it. We also have a little panel that explains a lot of the items that UDoIT looks for, as well as gives you some more info about those issues and incorrect and correct, just to give you some examples. But the real meat of it here is we've got these checkboxes to allow you to isolate specific portions of your course content to scan. But we're just going to scan everything because it's a very small course. And that brings up a good point, because it's fast. It's as fast as we can make it, basically, because it's using the Canvas APIs. But for large courses, it could take a little while. So you'll have to sit on the page and wait for it to finish. But it gives you a summary. There were 6 errors and 3 suggestions in this course. There were a bunch of sections that, this is a test course that has no content in those, but there were no problems detected. So we go to the pages area, and we find that there's a bunch of errors and suggestions on this page. So the top one here is image elements should have an alt attribute. If you've ever sat in on an accessibility webinar, that seems to be the only thing they ever talk about. Sorry, just get off my soapbox a little bit there. So you can view the source of the issue, obviously a beautiful photo of me there. And we have a new feature here. If you saw the previous year's presentation, this is actually something we hadn't even thought about at the time, to allow you to go in and fix the problem without having to go to the page. So I can just type. So I can just type that in, click submit, and it said it fixed it, and we can actually go to that page, and once it loads, if you'll excuse the Chrome Inspector for a second, you'll see that it added that alt attribute that I put in. So we have uFixit for a bunch of other issues, but we don't have it for everything, and that's obviously something we need to work on. But I'll get to that a little bit more in the future, or in the rest of this presentation. So we have change paragraphs to headings. This is another big one. People don't know what headings are really, what they're used for, so they just make a line and bold it. So we detect that. Obviously, this would be an easy one to have a uFixit for. We just haven't gotten around to it. There's so many features we can add to this. No table headers found. This was an issue for a while in Canvas because Canvas didn't allow you to set table headers. And actually now you can still only set a row header, or I guess column headers. So this one allows you to, this does have you fix it. And we have a drop down to say, I want the first row, the first column, or both the first row and the first column to be headers. And you can change that. We also have color contrast detection. We use the WCAG 2.0 AA, I think, level, and which is a little funny because the standard red that you can change text to in Canvas is not doesn't meet that standard. So it's saying that the standard red doesn't meet the 4.5 to 1 contrast ratio, and we have a uFixit for that as well, where you can just pick whatever color you want. So this is not finished though, because you could still pick an inaccessible color. So that's the right, save you from yourself, exactly. That's what you do. It's all about. So one of the things that's currently in the works is a feature that will suggest better colors to you and also warn you if you've picked a color, again, that's not accessible. And we also we're using the YouTube API to check YouTube videos to see if they have real captions. I don't know if you know this, but and actually, John Rabel, one of our instructional designers and also part-time programmer, he figured this out and wrote the code for it. And we just had to make some slight modifications to get it to fit into UDoIT. And it does not detect, so if it's using automated captions, robo-captions, or whatever you want to call them, it still returns a false for it having captions. So yeah, so this will show up for videos that don't have captions. Obviously, it won't show up if you have a perfectly captioned YouTube video. It doesn't work with Vimeo yet, but they also have an API, so we're working on that. Then we also have suggestions, which are not necessarily less important, but it's not as easy for us to figure out whether that's a real issue. So link text should be descriptive. You know, maybe the name of the website is click here, but we don't know. But we detect, because this is another thing that they talk about in accessibility webinars all the time, is that your links should be descriptive. And we don't have a use fix-it for this either, but that would also be something that wouldn't actually be that difficult to implement. Again, we have a long list. And then consider adding headings to your document to create more structure. So we detect I think if the page is over 1,500 characters, something like that, yeah, 1,500 characters long, it really should have some headings to break up that content and structure it. So we suggest that, and obviously that's something you can tune. That's actually in a configuration, but all right. So I think that's it for the demo, and we can show more. And actually, for questions, I'd like to keep it till the end of the presentation, just to make sure we keep all that together. Okay. So you might be wondering, how can I get a hold of this tool? How do I use it? How do you do it? Well, I'm happy to announce that it is open source. So you can go to the GitHub page. Well, there you go. So it's github.com/UCFCDL, Center for Distributed Learning, /UDOIT. And it doesn't matter if it's all caps or lowercase or whatever. And again, these slides, maybe I didn't mention this, but these slides are already available on the event for this talk in the Canvas community. And if you're not part of the Jive Canvas community yet, you really need to get on there, because it's actually pretty nice. So it uses a GPL version 3 license. And this is not a service that you can sign up for. This is an open source release. So system administrators, which when I asked before the talk, it seems like most of the audience are system administrators, so that's good, because that's exactly who will need to download and install this on a web server, and then you can choose whether to install it as an LTI on a course-by-course basis or globally or whatever you'd like. So support. It's an open source release. So the usual kind of rules apply with that. Support is going to be a community effort. Obviously, UCF is the only institution using it right now, so we will be the main support people for now. But as the community grows, we really need to band together and figure out issues and that kind of stuff together. So developers and administrators will use the GitHub account to post issues and discuss problems and things like that. And then I've already requested, I don't think it's live yet, but I've requested a community within the Canvas community, or a group, I guess, within the Canvas community, so that instructors and other users can go in and share experiences, report bugs, or request new features. And then the administrators can filter that and put it into issues on GitHub, just so we don't clutter up the issues in GitHub. So I want to take a second to thank all the people that worked on this. Gesundheit. So obviously it wasn't just programmers. It was me and the Tech Rangers working on it programming-wise, but we had a bunch of people doing marketing, and our instructional designers did a lot of testing and trying to get instructors to pilot it in their courses. So that was a real big help. So more information about UDoIT. We have a page on our website, which is online.ucf.edu/UDoIT, UDOIT. And there's my email. It's jacob.bates@ucf.edu. Now, I do want to put a little caveat in there. If you're having issues installing UDoIT right now, I'm probably the only person who can really help right now, because there's not many of us using it. So you can contact me if you'd like. Really, I would rather you put issues into GitHub. Putting issues into GitHub is really the best way to do it. But if you're having a very critical issue or something, you can contact me. Just don't try and do that too often. But also bigger picture stuff. You want to talk about the tool itself? Like definitely contact me. I just want to make sure that that issues that people are having are shared with the rest of the community, rather than just going into my inbox and dying there, basically. So that's actually it for my presentation. So Questions? Yes? Is this on a LAMP stack? Oh, it's all PHP. Some people think that's a dirty word now, PHP, but like especially the Canvas people with all their fancy Ruby on Rails. Anyway, but yes, it works on any LAMP stack, so Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP, but it also works on, we're running it on Nginx right now, but it does require PHP to be installed. So we haven't tested it on a Windows server yet, so that would be interesting. Anybody else? Yes?
So if you are not an HTML person and you're just faculty and you want to run something to make sure your class is okay before you start, is this, I mean, how would somebody like that manage?
So yes, we really tailored UDoIT toward people who are not HTML savvy. Like that's the idea, is that most of the accessibility issues we found required you to have some HTML knowledge to fix them. So that's why we added the UFixit tool, so that we can reduce the number of things that require HTML knowledge in order to fix. So this is actually tailored, or this is targeted toward faculty to use themselves.
Okay, but is there something, I guess I'm just looking for the person that probably would need the most amount of help, per se. Can they really figure it out to plug something in?
So you're saying can,
that you really need to come in at?
okay, so you're asking like what level of pre-knowledge do you need to have to start using UDoIT? I mean, optimally, if you can create your course in Canvas, you should be able to use UDoIT to fix it, or to fix the accessibility issues, rather. Obviously, for some of the issues that don't have UFixit, the UFixit feature yet, those are a challenge right now. But yeah, that's how it is right now, and we're building it out. So she suggests that you probably want to get your administrators to learn about the tool and know how to use it. And actually, our support staff, we've trained all of them on what the errors are, and they're fully trained on how to help people with those issues, and our instructional designers as well.
So,
yes.
If we could just talk in the microphone, just so we get it all on recorded easily. And she's got a question, then I'll bring you the mic.
Hi, first of all, thanks for this great tool. I can't wait to start using it.
Yeah.
I see that you work with the SAS. That's a group at your school?
Correct.
So I was wondering sort of who and to what spec you use to identify accessibility issues and also sort of verify the solutions that are suggested. Is it SAS identifying those? I mean, is it striving towards 508 compliance? Have any third parties kind of looked at it?
So the accessibility issues we're looking for we're basically looking for things that don't comply with the WCAG or WCAG 2.0 standards. So that's what we're looking for, and we've filtered it out a little bit because there are some general HTML issues that don't show up in online courses, and they'd be kind of extraneous. Like for instance, object tags should have a text equivalent. Well, you can't embed things using the object tag in Pages in Canvas, so we cut that out because it doesn't make any sense. So.
I wanted to ask, is it possible, because I'm sure with it showing up for all instructors, that instructors are going to run the report or run this tool, is there a report that they can print out or export and email back to the instructional designers or the admins, or so they can get more help with it? So they're not like basically in a box and they don't know who to call and what to do after that.
So yeah, that's a very good question. There are two ways to accomplish that. You can actually, there's a tab here for viewing old reports, and you can look at any of the previous reports that have been run, anybody that goes into this course that's not a student, obviously. So the instructional designer could go into the course, look at the old reports, click on the latest one, and see, oh yeah, I see they're having a problem with changing all their paragraphs to headings. And so they can do that. Or we also have a save report as PDF functionality. Now, I do have to say, we're currently having a problem with this in Firefox. If you have images in your course that are being loaded from a non-SSL source, which you shouldn't have anyway, because most browsers don't like that. But when you try to print the PDF or save the PDF, the process we use for that gets fudged up. So, yeah. But yeah, this is what it looks like. It strips out the HTML, and it kind of more summarizes. It just says, oh, you have 2 change paragraphs to headings issues. And these are still links. So when you open the PDF, you can still click and go to the page in question. So
it doesn't generate a report to the admin, the instructor has to send it?
it does not generate a report and automatically send it to the admin. No, it does not. That could be a really cool feature. Yeah, that could be a cool feature. Well, one of the things that we've started doing at UCF is when the instructor comes in for their pre-semester consultation, we'll just go ahead and run the UDoIT report with them there and then discuss it. Well, not we, but the instructional designers. So, you first. You have the
So I
microphone.
wanted just to clarify something. If you were to, let's say, all of our hundreds of courses, we hand select the font size, which is now horrible, and we need to use the headings in order to change the size of everything. So would this be the best way to go about changing all of that? Because using the YouFixit, would that be the quicker, best way to change all of these courses that we've done it wrong in, or to go into each individual course and change it that way?
I feel like that issue is kind of out of the scope of UDoIT. That's more of, that seems like the kind of thing you'd want to write. You'd want to have somebody write a script that uses the APIs to go in and fix all that. Yeah. And I'm sorry that you have that issue. Sir, do you have a question? Mike, do you have a question?
I was just saying if that feature for the reports, not every college has a system where they come in and do their pre-course evaluation. And so to have that report sent to the administrators
sure.
would really help.
Well, the great thing about this being an open source project is that you can add those features yourself. You can customize the tool. Well, yeah, and I understand not every institution has programmers, but yeah, somebody will, yeah.
Jacob, I just wanted to add one thing. In addition to PHP, there is a database that actually records everything that is, whenever UDoIT is run on a course. So one of the things that we're working on is actually a reporting to pull out of the database what are the most common errors, what are the courses that have the most common errors, so on and so forth. So you do have access to raw data that you can build some sort of reporting structure out of.
Yep. Thanks, John. Oh, wait for the mic.
Is there any potential to examine the accessibility of PDF documents or PowerPoints? I just haven't researched it.
Well, so that's that's something that that we kind of had to skip past because it's kind of a rabbit hole to go down. So we actually have a section at the end of the report, which you didn't see because I didn't have any files in there, but it'll list out, here are all the PDF, doc files, and PowerPoint files that we couldn't scan, but you should look at. We would love to be able to scan PDFs. At least in our department, we're trying to discourage people from using PDFs as much as possible. So it's not really in our best interest to program that in. But if someone else in the community would like to add that feature, that would be amazing. You had a question first.
Just 2 quick comments. First, this is awesome, so congratulations to you and those you work with to develop it. And secondly, for any Canvas reps who might be watching this presentation afterwards, this strikes me as incredibly important for core functionality of an LMS. And so I applaud your team for developing it. I hope that Instructure can give this some attention and consider folding this into their core product.
That would be nice. And who was it over here? Yeah.
Hi, I just wanted to follow up on your comment about discouraging PDFs. Can you say a little bit more about why?
Well, maybe I'm, getting out of the scope of this presentation by saying that. But The most accessible content for your online course is going to be in a page in the course. PDFs, it's easy to make mistakes that make the PDF inaccessible. I'm not saying that PDFs are not accessible. They can be very accessible. But we have a lot of instructors that, oh, I've got this out-of-print book, and I want the students to be able to read some chapters from it. I'm just going to lay it on the scanner and just go to town, and then they hand it out, and then a semester later, we have a student requesting an accommodation, and they have a visual impairment, and they're saying, I can't see the PDFs. You know, I can't read them at all, and we have to do something very quickly to go and find alternative versions or whatever. So that's really, that's kind of the main thing, is because it's so easy to just go and scan a book. And a lot of professors just, they don't even realize what's going on. They don't know that that's an issue, so. Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you so much.